While we're waiting for Coach Crean, let's go over a couple Big Ten notables. As you all well know, there were 3 Big Ten teams in the top 5 of both top 25 national polls last week, both the Associated Press and USA Today coaches polls, which will also be released later this afternoon. In the AP poll, Ohio State was ranked number 3, followed by number 4 Wisconsin, number 5 Michigan State, and number 22 Iowa, while Illinois and Michigan both received votes. In the coaches ballot, Ohio State was ranked number 3, followed by number 4 Michigan State, number 5 Wisconsin, and number 23 Iowa. Michigan and Illinois both received votes in the coaches ballot as well. And as I mentioned, both of those updated polls will be coming out this afternoon. Ohio State and Wisconsin both remained unbeaten at 15-0 on the season by winning their 2 Big Ten games last week. Ohio State now has the 5th longest single-season winning streak in school history and is off to its best start since 2010-11 when they were 24-0. Wisconsin tied the program record for best start to a season last night, 15-0, with their win over Iowa.
And we have Coach online.
Are we joined by Coach Crean now?
Yes, I'm sorry about that. I was in a meeting. I'm sorry.
No problem, Coach. Just wanted to get a brief opening statement. You guys are 10-5 on the season, 0-2 in the Big Ten. Got a game at Penn State on Saturday. Can you start with an opening statement? We'll try to squeeze in a couple questions.
Sure. Well, where we're at right now is we're coming off a great practice last night. We'll practice here in a little while today. We're just trying to make sure that our guys keep gaining the confidence and understand all the things that you have to have. Before you can win, you have to learn how not to lose. And what we've got to continue to understand is how important each possession is, and we're still going through, you know, how you read your cuts, and we've got to get better at screening. I mean, there's so many fundamental things we can improve upon, and I think as we do, then we'll get better. And because I like our toughness, I like our attitude, and we can't do anything about the lack of experience right now, so all we can try to do is just speed up how quick we learn what it takes, and that's where we're at.
All right, thanks, Coach. We'll open it up for questions from the media for Coach Crean.
To ask Coach a question, please press *1 on your telephone keypad. Your first question comes from the line of Johnson Shop, Spartan Nation.
Coach, can you talk about the challenge of going up against Michigan State from a rebounding perspective? Is this as good a rebounding team, Michigan State, as they've had in past years, or is this maybe not as strong a rebounding unit?
Well, I think that would be hypothetical for me to comment on where they're at in years past. They're always good, and it's always a challenge, and they're very physical, and they're very aggressive around the basket, and they send numerous guys to the glass, and that's something that they have always done, they always will do, and I think they have an outstanding rebounding team.
And, Coach, can you talk real quick about the challenge this year for your Indiana team, creating an identity with all the success that you guys had last year and all that you lost? How difficult or how far along in creating an identity do you think that this team is?
Well, I think the identity, you want it to be there yesterday, and it doesn't always work that way. And I think where we're at is we've got to get a toughness and a level of basketball IQ that match up, because that's what the best teams have. The best teams know how to play with great resolve and resiliency and consistency, which is your toughness, and they understand the possession by possession. They understand how important each possession is. And we've got to continue to learn that, but we want to be a team that can run. We also want to be a team that can execute in the half court. I thought the other day we didn't execute very well in the half court. Our screening wasn't very good. I think there's so many things to emphasize with a young team for them to understand how to win, and you've got to keep making sure that your emphasis remains ongoing, and at the same time you don't let anything else shortcut. So we're in the process of that. I don't think there's any question about that, but I love their attitude, and I think we're gaining some toughness, and I think we'll get a lot better.
Again, to ask an audio question, please press *1. Your next question comes from the line of Tony Krause, Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette.
Yes, hi, Coach.
Hi.
I just wanted to ask, what is the message to the team when you start 0-2? Do you harp on there's plenty of time left, and in a conference like the Big Ten, a lot of things can change in 2 months?
Well, I don't think you harp on it at all. I think it's 2 games, and I think what you try to do is you try. Now, we'll watch. Yesterday we went straight to practice, so we'll watch the film today of what we thought was crucial in the game this past Saturday. I think you keep getting a team to understand, no matter what, no matter if you're winning or you're losing, where there's improvement and where there needs to be improvement. And you tend to focus a lot more on the things that you need to get better at sometimes than the things you're doing well. I think we also need to focus on what we're doing well. And for us right now, it was getting back to the practice court, making sure that we're building that identity of running, of moving without the ball, of getting the ball reversed, of getting back on defense, of challenging shots better, of making sure that we're rebounding at a high rate, finishing better, all those things. And so if you're spending time on what you need to improve upon, you don't spend a lot of time talking about this, that, or the other thing. You've got to really stay in the moment as much as possible for a team to gain confidence, and that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you, Coach.
Sure.
Thanks, Coach. We're out of time this morning. We appreciate you talking to us,
Okay.
and we'll look forward to
Thank
seeing you
you.
next week.
I apologize again for being tardy on this. I apologize.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, bye.
The next coach on the teleconference is Iowa's Fran McCaffery. The Hawkeyes are 12-3 overall, 1-1 in Big Ten play, and ranked number 22 in the AP poll. Iowa will host Northwestern on Thursday before traveling to number 3 Ohio State on Sunday. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you.
Please just give us a brief opening statement, if you would, and then we'll go ahead and open it for questions from the media.
Okay, we had a decent week in terms of the fact that we won 1-2. One at home against a very good Nebraska team. Played well at times. Obviously at Wisconsin, who's a very good team. And I think we're getting great play out of a lot of different people. Most importantly, Roy Devin Marble and Aaron White. I think both playing at a very high level, and we're looking forward to competing this week.
Thanks, Coach. We'll go ahead and open it for questions from the media.
To ask Coach a question, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Your first question comes from the line of Brian Hamilton, SI.com.
Hey, Fran. Wondering, light of day, how you view the double tack and the ejection last night. If there are sort of any other ways you would have wanted to handle that differently?
Oh, definitely. I think, the game, was unique in the sense that, excuse me, in the sense that, we played near flawless basketball for the first 20 minutes, especially in that environment, and I felt really good about it. We deviated from that in the second half, and things were going in the wrong direction for us. I wasn't pleased with a couple calls, but, not out of the ordinary. I mean, that happens. And then, felt like we needed to change some things. And, so the first tee, I think, was expected. No question about that. Really wish I hadn't gotten the second one. I think, you got to be able to, assess, things that happen. That's what you ask your players to do. You've got to be able to do that yourself and say, all right, not what I wanted. I didn't put our team in a position that benefited them. And I think, you got to be man enough to admit that and say, hey, I regret that. I don't want to in any way put them in that position. Additionally, you don't ever want to do anything that in any way would embarrass the university. So, we live in a different world where, you get a double T 10 years ago, you got a double T and that was it. Now, everybody looks at it and everybody wants to assess it and weigh in on it. And that's just part of the world we live in. But from that, to that end, I don't want to ever do anything to embarrass the school, but, more importantly, do anything that would put our team in a position where it would make it harder for them to win. And so I regret the second tee, no question.
What is the fine line in sort of standing up for your team as a coach, but also knowing when to say when?
That is a very good question, and I think it's in many ways hard to define because I think it differs in the situation. It differs. You almost have to say, okay, where was everybody positionally? Who's the crew? I mean, in a perfect world, you say your piece, you get banged. You hope that'll jumpstart things a little bit. Your assistants come and get you, and they walk away. They pull me away, and we move on, and they get 2 free throws, and we're done with it. It was unfortunate, I think, in that situation because I was venting, and it was bang bang, but you got to be able to walk away when the first one hits. It's that simple. You can't get the second one because you're giving them 2 more. That's not what you need at that point. Sometimes guys will let you go longer, some guys won't. It all depends on, like I said, a lot of different things. And that's where I think you got to rely on your staff a little bit and yourself. I'm not saying I should have. I'm readily admitting I should have done that.
Right. Great. Thanks, Fran. Appreciate it.
Yep. Sure thing.
To ask Coach a question, please press star 1.
Coach, talk a little bit about the return of Josh Oglesby and what he provides to your rotation.
Well, he brings experience and solid play. I mean, he didn't score it last night, but I thought he moved it. He had some great passes. He's a threat. They guard him in such a way that it does provide some space for some other people. And I think what you'll see with him is he'll just keep getting better and better.
Your next question comes from the line of Scott Docterman, Cedar Rapids Gazette.
Yeah, Fran, I've seen you several times calm and several times fired up. You do tend to take a calculated approach sometimes to whether or not you get a tee. You've talked about that before. Was this a situation where the first one you wanted to get the technical foul to kind of send a message to your team and to maybe the officiating crew?
Yeah, no question. No question. I mean, it wasn't like I was surprised, right? I mean, and it did exactly what I thought. But what I got to do then is turn around. But I was talking to one guy, the other guy banged me. I would say something else, and then boom, he ran me. So I got to be smart enough not to do that.
It looked like there was a little bit of contact, but it may have been inadvertent and possibly by the official. What do you recall, and have you seen the?
No, there wasn't any.
We have time for one more question from the media for Coach McCaffery before we let him go.
Your next question comes from the line of Zach Osterman, Indianapolis Star.
Hi, Coach. I just wanted to ask you, you've got an up-close look at Wisconsin now, and obviously, I don't know if they're the surprise team in the conference, but then where they are, you said it's the best start in school history. Just kind of what is different about them? What makes them? What has maybe led to this start? I know Coach Ryan's been consistent in the past, but what's led them to 15-0, so much success over in the year in your mind?
I don't know that there's anything other than, they're staying true to what they do. They do have an experienced team. They do have 5 3-point shooters that start. They have 7 3-point shooters in the top 8. They have 8 scorers in the top 8. They don't turn the ball over. So, they're always a threat to come back. They're always a threat to make shots late. You're not going to beat them with them missing free throws late. They're not going to do that. So it really is going to take a tremendous effort to get them because of all of those factors. But, I think they really share the ball. When you have scorers like that are really unselfish, they're just going to keep scoring throughout the game, and it puts incredible pressure on your defense. We played probably as good a defense as they've seen in the first 20 minutes. But you knew they were going to make a move, and they did.
Coach, thanks for your time this morning. We're out
okay,
of time.
guys.
Thanks a lot. Have a good one. The next coach on the teleconference is Illinois' John Groce. The Fighting Illini are 13-2 overall and 2-0 in Big Ten play and are receiving votes in both the AP and coaches polls. Illinois will play 2 Big Ten road games this week, beginning with Wednesday's contest at number 4 Wisconsin, followed by a trip to Northwestern on Sunday. Coach Groce, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
If you wouldn't mind starting with a brief opening statement, we'll go ahead and open the call for questions from the media.
Sure. Obviously our team has made a lot of progress throughout the course of the season. I think the non-conference schedule really helped us playing away from home 6 times, which tied 2 other teams in our league for the most trips away from home. I thought it made us closer, played a lot of different teams, a lot of different styles, a lot of different environments, played in some tough environments. So I thought that really helped our team in terms of its growth and its ability to mature and evolve. I think at the end of the day, our defense and rebounding have been fairly consistent, and our execution on offense has gotten tremendously better throughout the course of the season. I was really proud of our guys the first week of Big Ten play. Obviously we've been through 2 rounds. There's still 16 more rounds, but the first 2 rounds I thought we played hard and tried to play the game the right way, and certainly something to build on for sure. Moving forward, obviously we got a big challenge this week. We're looking forward to the challenge, playing a terrific basketball team, well-coached basketball team on Wednesday night in Madison, and that's our total focus right now, kind of 1 round at a time. Questions?
Thanks, Coach. We'll go ahead and open it for questions from the media.
To ask Coach a question, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Your first question comes from the line of Diane Smith, Los Angeles Times.
Coach, this is on a little different topic. I'm doing a story about Andy Enfield becoming the first 15th seed coach to get a BCS job, and you were a 14th seed coach that got a BCS coaching job. And I wondered what the challenges are to move up in conference that way, and if you had any doubts about accepting the Illinois job, which I'm guessing you didn't at that time after doing so well at OU.
For me, it's a little bit different because, I grew up here within the area in the Midwest,
right.
Followed Big Ten basketball my whole life, coached in the Big Ten as an assistant coach and associate head coach at Ohio State for 4 years. So the transition to the area from a recruiting standpoint, transition to the Big Ten from a league standpoint. Obviously, it's not easy. We feel like our league is among the best, if not the best in the country. But, it did help, those factors that I just mentioned. That helped for sure with the transition. Our family is all within 3 hours of here on my side, my wife's side. So it was a very comfortable, smooth transition. In terms of coaching, I think coaching is about, helping your players grow, regardless of whether you're here or at Ohio. Certainly the Big Ten is more challenging top to bottom. But I kind of knew that from my first stint in the league. In terms of the, decision to come here, I tell people it was the easiest decision, yet the hardest decision at the same time. The easiest decision because it was Illinois and because of some of those factors I just mentioned previously already here. Hardest decision because my entire team at that point in time was back, and I was leaving those guys and wouldn't have an opportunity to be at Illinois if it wasn't for the disposition, the character, and the play of those players that I coached at Ohio. So it was hard to tell those guys that. That was the hardest part. But in terms of the job itself and transition, I think that's been pretty smooth. The chance to be at Illinois, we just won our 1700th game against UIC. We're one of 12 college basketball programs to do that. In the
I'm
history
from
of the
Illinois.
sport.
Yeah, I'm an Illinois girl.
So that part, in terms of that part of the decision, was an easy one. That part was a no-brainer. But again, the hard part was leaving my guys.
So one other thing I wanted to ask is, how much different is recruiting when you move up levels like that? You're going after obviously different athletes than you were, right? I assume you were going after a different caliber of athlete than you were at OU.
Well, there are some similarities in terms of the process for sure, but there are some differences in terms of recruiting at this level. There's no question about it. But I had a little bit of a feel for that again because I'd had a stint in the Big Ten. I had been at NC State in the ACC, so I had a feel for that. I was at Xavier. I had a feel for that before taking it. I kind of had an idea of what to expect there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Your next question comes from the line of Marcus Jackson, News Gazette.
I just want to ask you, with the weather the way it is, have you guys changed anything in your plans and what you guys do on a daily basis with trying to keep guys safe and not having any issues there?
Yeah, we're doing the best job we can, Marcus. I'll be honest, we practiced yesterday. Women practiced, we practiced. It does make me nervous. It's a little bit better today, although it's really, as you know, you're here. It's really, really cold. But at least it's it's sunny out, and the wind's not blowing as bad as it was yesterday. But we did work out yesterday. It's funny, the guys came in and said the unconditional. They asked me if I ordered the weather in to try to imitate the weather we'll have up Wednesday in Madison. So they had a good time with all that. We got a good meal, fed them, had a good light workout yesterday. Watched the film. We always watch the film to see what we can learn and get a little bit better from the Penn State game, and then we moved on and started preparing for Wisconsin. But I did change it up a little bit today. I didn't want them getting up early in the morning. I didn't want them coming to the gym twice like they usually do here 2 days out. So we're having them just come once today, even to get their extra shot. So trying to manage that the best that we can.
And with regards to Wisconsin, is there anything other than that they've had good basketball teams that makes them so tough to play up there at the Kohl Center?
Well, I think they're tough to play regardless where you play them, and obviously their success up there is well documented. I think they're a team when you watch them play. They really play the game the right way. They play together at both ends of the floor, and they do not beat themselves. They don't turn it over. They make free throws late. They make the extra pass. All the little discipline and detail things that I think are important, they do well. It helps that they're an older team. They've got a lot of guys out there that have, Hayes has been a great addition as a freshman, but, and Koenig's played good minutes for him. But the guys kind of that start for them, and some of those guys have redshirted. They're older than what their quote unquote grade level would indicate, and they they play really well together. So I think it helps that they've certainly got some veterans that have been there and done that. But I think at the end of the day, you have to beat them. They're not going to beat themselves.
Thanks.
Your next question comes from the line of Jeremy Winter, EBS Radio.
Hey, John. You addressed this last year, but with all the new guys you have, you're likely to be ranked this week. How do you deal with that with your new guys, with people telling them that they're good now?
Well, we've talked a lot about that. We're not caught up in all that stuff. I mean, that's great. That's a byproduct of them playing some good basketball here of late, but we still have a long way to go. We've talked about the Big Ten season being an 18-round boxing match. We played 2 rounds. I mean, it's early. We got to keep getting better. We want to be that team that's constantly improving. One of the when I sat down with the older guys, they didn't talk. One of their goals was not to be necessarily, hey, the end all for us is to be ranked. I think that's more of a byproduct of what they've done and the fact that they have really honored the process. And I think now that they've started to get some attention nationally. But at the end of the day, we've got to do what we do, and we've got to do it well, and we've got to continue to do it better.
Thanks.
All right, we have time for one more question from the media before we let Coach Groce go.
Your next question comes from the line of Shannon Ryan, Chicago Tribune.
Hi, Coach. How are you?
Good, Shannon. How are you?
Good. You mentioned the offensive execution improving. I'm wondering, when did you see that really click? Go ahead.
That's a great question. I think I saw it getting a little bit better, but I thought when it really stood out, I thought was the maybe the Indiana game, where I thought it was about as good as it had been all year. Just our execution out of timeouts, our attention to detail with scouting, I thought was pretty good. And I thought we did some good things in the Missouri game as well. And then I thought we made some adjustments defensively for the second half of the UIC game that they executed very, very, very well. So, those things, I know I mentioned different games there, but I probably over the last month or so just continued to kind of get our timing a little bit better, get used to playing with one another, understanding terminology, being able to adjust quicker, being able to think the game without overthinking, because I don't want to have paralysis through analysis. I think some of that has happened over the last, maybe month or so.
Thanks.
Uh-huh.
All right, Coach, thanks for your time this morning. We look forward to speaking with you next week.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. The next coach on the teleconference is Northwestern's Chris Collins. The Wildcats are 7-8 on the season and 0-2 in Big Ten play. Northwestern will play at number 22 Iowa on Thursday before hosting Illinois on Sunday. Coach Collins, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
If you wouldn't mind giving us a brief opening statement, we'll go ahead and open it for questions from the media after that.
All right, certainly for us it was a tough week, had a couple tough games against two outstanding teams. I actually thought we played a lot better yesterday against Michigan than we had against Wisconsin during the middle of the week. Guys played with a lot of energy. The game was in a manageable spot. With about 12 minutes to go, it was a 6-point game, and we had a couple point-blank layups at the basket that I thought were real critical to us cutting it to 4 or 2, and then, they did what good teams do. They got out in transition, got some baskets, and got a little separation, and were able to get us, put us at bay. So I saw a lot of progress from our first game to our second game. We got to keep at it. Certainly, it doesn't get any easier playing at Iowa on Thursday, who's an outstanding team and is going to be really ready to play. So just got to get ready, get prepared, and look forward to playing our next game.
Thanks, Coach. We'll go ahead and open it for questions from the media.
To ask Coach a question, please press star 1. Your first question comes from the line of Ted Greenstein, Chicago Tribune.
I figured it was a matter of time until your voice went out. Is this about the time of the year that you figured?
Yeah, excuse me. I think it's either that or the negative 50-degree wind chill that's causing it. So I don't know if it's the on-court stuff or the weather we're living in right now.
Do you is the school closed today? Do you do anything to adjust practice-wise or anything?
Yeah, the school is closed. Everybody's really conscious of what's going on with the weather, and safety is of utmost importance, which it should be. So no classes today, and everything's closed. We're giving our guys a day off today from practice, but a number of our guys live right across the street, so I know they'll be popping in maybe to work out on their own with our strength and conditioning coach, get some shots, things of that nature. But we won't have any practice.
Got it. And he mentioned a missed layup. I mean, I noticed Sanjay had 1 or 2 of those, and in general, at least his numbers have not been really good the last few games. What's going on with him?
Well, I think he's just a freshman and he's learning. He's for him, we're a little bit undersized as a team, and he's had to pretty much play out of position all year. He's played as kind of our second big guy, and he's doing a really good job. I'm proud of him. He plays really hard. He battles. The next step in his growth as a player is going to be his ability to give us some offense and to be able to finish some of those baskets around the bucket. Yesterday I thought he made it. The drive he made and just wasn't able to finish. And then we had the 2-on-1 break when it was 39-33, and we were making a little push. We were trying. I thought we were playing well. We were making a push and had a chance there to cut it to 4, and we weren't able to finish. And that's where we have to continue to be a little bit tougher minded as a group, where if things don't go that way, you got to stay, you got to stick together, you got to stay tough, and you got to fight through that. And we weren't really able to get through that little stretch, and Michigan hit us with a run and put it out of reach. So Sanjay's he's a big part of our future. I love his effort, I love his energy. He's a great defender. He got 7 rebounds yesterday, and his next step for his growth though is going to be his ability to figure out how to give us some offense. And with a lot of the guys, I mean, you see Ted. I mean, we outside of Drew, guys are struggling to put it in the basket, and we gotta find some more consistency with some other guys and take some of that off Drew's plate so he just doesn't get worn out every game.
Your next question comes from the line of Rick Brown, Des Moines Register.
Yeah, Coach, sorry if this was discussed. I got cut off, but you returned to Carver Hawkeye Place where you actually made a recruiting visit. back in your high school days. Can you just talk about what you remember about that recruiting trip? I understand Chris Street was your host.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa was one of my final choices. I love the coaching staff, Dr. Tom Davis and Gary Close, who's now an assistant coach with Wisconsin. I had great relationships with them. Took one of my official visits to Iowa, had a great time. Stayed with Chris Street and actually Paul Lusk, who's now the head coach at Missouri State, and really hit it off with those guys and had a great weekend. And the thing that really stood out was the passion that their fans had for their team. I went on a football weekend, and it was back in the day. I don't even know if they still do this, but the morning of the football game, they had a little thing called Shirts and Skins, where the basketball team would play pickup ball while people were tailgating, and the place was packed in there, and they'd come in and watch the basketball team play, and people had signs and were cheering, and it really just made a great impression on me, the passion that the Iowa fans have for their athletics program, for their basketball team, and actually had a chance to play there my sophomore year at Duke, and I just remember what a great environment it was and how tough of a venue it was, and had a really hard-fought game when we played there in 1994. So it was nothing but really good memories and great people, and really enjoyed my weekend. So my mother's from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, so I have a lot of family in the area, and I've grown up spending a lot of time in the state of Iowa, so I've always thought very highly of the area.
What's been the toughest thing for you as you try to build this thing? You don't have victories to kind of give the guys proof that what they're doing is the right thing.
Yeah, it's a great question. Certainly you don't want to bank yourself on having all these moral victories. That's not really how I operate. It's a bottom line. You go into a battle and you either win or you lose, and so that's been tough. Especially the last couple games. But I did see a lot of progress from our first game to our second game. The guys are fighting. Our attitude is good. I feel like we are executing. We're just having a hard time putting the ball in the basket right now, which just wears on you mentally. It's as a player, and a lot of us played. I remember when I played, it's you go through a stretch where you're having a hard time scoring. No matter what, it affects the other areas of your game. And I feel like we played really good defense yesterday to start the game, and then as we couldn't score and we went through a drought, our defense was the thing that really suffered, and Michigan wore us down in that area. So there has been progress. I love the attitude of our guys. No one has stopped fighting. We're still preparing hard. Guys are still excited to play, and it's my job to keep that going. And we need to then show some signs with wins. I mean, you want to see progress, but at the end of the day, you got to do it for 40 minutes, and you got to win a game. So that's our next challenge. And in this league, that's not easy. Every game you play, you're playing great teams. You're playing teams that are really well coached, well prepared, and so it's going to take great effort on our part to be able to get that done.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, to ask a question, please press *1.
Coach, talk a little bit about your center, Alex Ola, who had a great game against Michigan. With a great game against Wisconsin, 23 points, and played well yesterday against Michigan as well. Talk about his development and what he can provide your team in the front court.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really proud of what Alex has done. I think sometimes, with bigger guys, my experience with the young post players is it just takes time. It's a very tough position to come into at the college level, because in high school, big guys aren't allowed to play physical. They get a tough whistle, so they have to learn in high school to play without really making any contact, because they get fouls called on them because they're bigger and stronger than everybody. Then all of a sudden they get to college and bodies are banging, you're hitting, it's very physical, and my experience is it's with young post players it just takes time and experience for them to really figure out how they can be successful at this level. And Alex is in his sophomore year. He's still a developing player, and I'm really proud of the progress he's making. He's learning how to play more physically. He's getting deeper position inside. We're finding him more. Our players are having more trust in him to throw him the ball, and he's producing. And hopefully he can take these last two games as a springboard for him, confidence-wise, as we move forward in the Big Ten, because we have high hopes for him. He's got a nice touch. He's a big guy, and he's really starting to come into his own. And he's given us that low post presence that we so desperately need.
Thanks, Coach. We've got time for one more question from the media before we let Chris Howland go.
To ask a question, please press *1.
All right, Coach, looks like we're all set. Appreciate you joining us, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you. The next coach on the teleconference is Penn State's Patrick Chambers. Subbing in for Coach Chambers this morning will be Associate Head Coach Keith Urgo. The Nittany Lions are 9-6 on the season and 0-2 in Big Ten play. Penn State will host both Minnesota and Indiana this week. Coach Urgo, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for having us.
No problem. Would you please just give us a quick opening statement about your team's season so far, and we'll go ahead and open up the call for questions.
You know what? As far as our team is concerned, obviously we're not happy with what happened the other night, but we're just trying to continue to get better. You got to give all the credit to both Michigan State and Illinois, well-coached teams that played extremely well the other night at Illinois. They played as hard as a team we've played so far this year. We give a lot of credit to them, but as we do every day, we come in just trying to get better, and that's what our team is doing. And we got a lot to work on, and we're looking forward to getting back on the court against Minnesota on Wednesday night.
To ask Coach a question, please press star 1.
Coach, talk a little bit about the emergence of John Johnson, who has led your team in scoring in 2 of the 3 games that he's been eligible for. What specifically does he provide to your team from an offensive standpoint?
Well, I mean, it's clear that he obviously adds a whole new dimension. He's able to spread the defense a little bit more and give Tim and DJ specifically a little bit more room to operate. Again, with the emergence of him as well as Jordan Dickerson, it takes time to get those 2 guys implemented into game situations and to get comfortable and for our team to gel, and that's going to take a little time. We knew that going in. Fortunately, they both had the Mount St. Mary's game, the last non-conference game before Christmas to play. But still, it takes a little bit of time to gel as a unit. When you add 2 new guys, it takes some time. But for John Johnson, he's such a big presence on the offensive end. We're still working with him on the defensive end and rebounding as far as that goes. But on the offensive end, he's just able to make plays on his own. And you need some guys like that who are able, when the shot clock's going down, to just make a play. And he's capable of doing that. He's a flat-out scorer. And again, it spreads the defense a little bit and gives Tim and DJ a little bit more room to operate. We're able to spread out a little bit more, and it opens up some lanes for drive and space situations. So he's been an incredible addition. Now we just got to continue to learn how to play together. That's why these 2 practices leading up to Minnesota today and tomorrow are so crucial, because every day we have to work together. We become more of a unit.
Thank you.
Your first question comes from the line of Dustin Dobriak, Wilmington Herald-Times.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Not too bad. I just on all that. I mean, just overall, what do you like and not like about this team right now? What do you feel like you guys are doing well? What do you want to see this team get better at?
Clearly, offensively, we can score the ball. We love the fact that we've got multiple guys who can create off the dribble and get their own shot. Now, again, what we just need to do, like we said before, is we just got to figure out a way to gel with adding 2 new guys and 2 big pieces. Clearly, we need to get better on the defensive end. We've given up a few too many threes, which doesn't make it any easier when you got Minnesota coming in on Wednesday night. But we got to get better on the defensive end, and we gave up too many offensive rebounds the other night against Illinois. But credit them, they played extremely hard, and they were physical. We got to match physicality. We got to play a little bit harder on the defensive end. But again, that comes with the unit gelling. And that's really where you see a team coming together, is on the defensive end, a little bit more communication, a little bit more togetherness. But that is the biggest piece for us right now, is we're going to spend the next couple of days just trying to get better defensively and continue to learn how to play together, our strengths and our weaknesses with each other individually on the court. And that's where we got to improve. Our transition defense needs to improve. And we're going to have to take care of the ball. We gave up 11 turnovers the other night against Illinois, and I believe they had 19 points off of turnovers. And when you got Minnesota coming in here Wednesday night, who likes to pressure you pretty much for 40 minutes, you're going to have to learn how to take care of the ball. And that's something that we're working on the next couple of days, and a couple of pieces that we need to get better. So, again, each and every day we come to practice, we're trying to get better and come together as a unit. And that's the most important thing for us right now, is focus on some of the things that we do well, which is spreading defenses out, creating our own offense off the dribble, but also transition defense and gelling as one unit on the defensive end.
Thanks, Chris.
Again, to ask an audio question, please press star 1. Your next question comes from the line of Zach Osterman, Indianapolis Star.
Excuse me. This is, I guess, sort of just to follow up on that. You talked a little bit about it, but when you do have a bunch of guys that can create their own offense, offensively, how do you get them to come together? I mean, how much of a challenge is it to maybe get guys to really work as one whole group when they're all so good at creating individually?
That's a great question. Well, with us, it's just repetition, in practice, and we just got to learn to play together. We just continue to rep 5-on-0 and 4-on-0 in practice, and it's really studying a lot of film. DJ, Tim, Ross Travis, DJ Tim, and John Johnson, it's studying film, each individually, not just themselves, but the other guys, to learn, you got to get familiar with your own guys and their tendencies. You got to know where they like the ball. You got to know, what is their tendency? Do they prefer to drive right? Do they prefer to drive left? Do they pull up going right or left? Where do they like their threes? Where do they love catching the ball and making moves? And I think for our guys, just learning how to play with one another each and every day in practice and watching film and just spending time with one another. And the more they play together, again, it's just repetition. The more you play together, the more familiar you get. And unfortunately, with John Johnson's case, we worked him in. Coach Chambers did a great job of working him into the starting unit as we let up weeks out, but only for a few days here and there. And then so recently it's been a lot more repetition, a lot more reps for John Johnson in the starting lineup, and clearly it's taken a little bit of time to understand where everyone likes the ball and how they like to receive the ball. John Johnson loves to catch and shoot off the dribble. So it's just a familiarity with one another, and again, it's not going to happen overnight. It's just continuing to get reps in practice and play together, and repetition, and eventually they'll start to learn how to play with one another and understand each other's strengths and weaknesses.
To ask Coach a question.
Coach, just a little follow-up. You definitely challenge your team out of conference with the schedule you guys playing in a variety of difficult environments. How do you believe your non-conference schedule prepared you for the Big Ten?
Oh, there's no question. Playing St. John's, it's considered a neutral court in Brooklyn, but it really wasn't. We knew that was going to prepare us. That was a great battle. Ole Miss on the road in a neutral site. Clearly, when you go to Pitt, that's one of the toughest places to play in the country, and just as raucous a crowd as anyone will find in the Big Ten. And that was the idea. We felt like we had a mix between some veterans and some young guys, and that our veteran guys could help us through those situations. And we wanted to put our guys in the most difficult situations. So obviously, when they got to the Big Ten, it wasn't a shock, and we felt like we did that, and we played tough in all those environments. I mean, we won for the first time against Duquesne in the city of Pittsburgh, and I believe 17 or 19 years a Penn State team went in there and finally won in the city of Pittsburgh. So, that was clearly on the mind of Coach Chambers while scheduling. We wanted to get our guys prepared and place them in the most difficult situations, because each and every night you go on the road in the Big Ten, it's a raucous crowd, no matter where you go, and we feel like we were prepared. We don't feel like we go into any situation. Illinois was a phenomenal crowd. We felt like we handled that. We got down early and battled back. Unfortunately, some things went down in the second half that kind of put us in a hole, but we didn't feel like it was there was any nervousness being on the road at all. We feel like we're now comfortable being in hostile environments.
All right, appreciate it, Coach. Thanks for taking the time to join us this morning. Have a great week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Up next on the teleconference is Purdue's head coach, Matt Painter. The Boilermakers are 10-5 overall and 0-2 in Big Ten play. Purdue will host Nebraska on Sunday, January 12th. Coach Painter, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
If you wouldn't mind giving us a brief opening statement, we'll go ahead and open up the call for questions from the media.
Well, obviously, we've gotten off to a tough start. Had a tough game yesterday in Minneapolis. We played Ohio State a week ago, which is a very good team, very good, experienced defensive group that I thought that was tough to go against. For our team, I thought they did a good job of attacking when things were there and really probing the defense when it wasn't. I thought in the Ohio State game we did a good job of getting the ball inside and establishing an inside presence. We didn't finish at the rim, especially in the first half, like we were capable of doing. Had some things go against us in the second half that we didn't handle to the best of our ability. Our guys tried to fight through some things and just had some costly turnovers and had some misses at the rim that we needed to finish, and we weren't able to. So it's always tough losing at home. You got to take care of your home court, and we didn't do that to start Big Ten play, and then we lost. Yesterday against Minnesota, got down 18-19 in the second half, and we were able to battle back and make it a possession game at the end. But just we dug ourselves too big of a hole and just out-rebounded them, had fewer turnovers in them, and that's a recipe for success, especially on the road. But we just had too many shots that were ill-advised, that are really turnovers that don't go in the box score. And just had to do a better job with our shot selection. And then we just had too many breakdowns defensively, just some simple things off of some plays that they run over and over. And they did a better job executing than we did staying with them, and they got too many open looks at the basket. But hopefully we can learn from it, show some better discipline, and continue to work on our shot selection, just really continue to work on playing winning basketball. We have a young group, but we also have some guys that are young that have played, and they've been in Big Ten contests, and they've been through a season already, that we need to start showing some basketball maturity.
Thanks, Coach. Let's go ahead and open up the call for questions from the media.
To ask Coach a question, please press *1. Your first question comes from the line of Grant Couch, Lansing State Journal.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for taking some time. I wanted to ask you about a team you faced in Ohio State and what the game plan is against a guy like Aaron Kraft. How do you attack him, and how do you defend him? What does he do for that team?
Well, I think you got to always be aware of him when he's on defense, especially in the open court. He's a very good decision maker in terms of when to gamble, when to play on the basketball, when to hold his position and take a charge. So, but whether it's the full court or the half court, he's very good. He's great away from the ball. He's great on the ball. Very cerebral. Just understands games and understands angles. And he reminds me of the guy that we had, Chris Kramer. He's probably a little bit better than Chris had. He just has unbelievable defensive instincts. And I don't think it's something that you can really teach. You just have it throughout the years. And normally those guys that are that way, that are physical and have those instincts, are football guys. They understand angles, and it really helps through the years playing football when you now come onto the basketball court. Offensively, he got a shot blocked against us a couple times early in the game, and he simply kind of modified what he was doing and just continued to probe the defense and show his experience, and ended up with 10 assists and no turnovers. Just a great floor general. You have to keep him in front of you. You're wanting to make some perimeter shots. You don't want to give him anything, but you want to keep him in front of you, and that's his Achilles. The thing that he will do if his first couple don't go down, he more or less stops shooting them. He might shoot one more, but that's okay to him. He doesn't care. He just wants Ohio State to win. And so you have to understand that a lot of guys, you take guards and you back up off of them a little bit, or you give them more space, they'll take the bait and take that shot to prove to the world they can make it. Well, he just wants Ohio State to win. He's kind of a dinosaur when it comes to that. He's the quintessential coach on the floor, and he's doing all the little things to help Ohio State win.
Are you surprised, minus Deshaun Thomas, that they've gotten off to this start?
No, not at all. In my opinion, I expected it. They have experience. They have leadership. They're great defensively. Anytime you have some poise and you have good shot selection and you're great on defense, you're going to win basketball games. You're simply going to win basketball games. And I think we saw a small snapshot of what LaQuinton Ross can do in the NCAA tournament. He had 25 against us. Really good player. Linzel Smith is tough, can make shots. Good player. Sam Thompson, Shannon Scott, once again, both of them good defenders. So you get Linzel, Sam, Shannon Scott, Aaron Kraft. You got 4 guys in 3 spots that are always going to be able to defend at a very, very high level. I would say we tried to attack what we felt, where they were the thinnest at, and where we felt we had a strength. That was on the interior, and we got those guys in foul trouble. But we didn't make them pay when it comes to that. But I would say that's the part. If Amir Williams and Trey McDonald, play at a high level, they could win our league. They can win it all, if you ask me.
Matt, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No problem.
To ask Coach a question, please press star 1. Your next question comes from the line of Tony Krause, Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette.
Yes, hi, Coach. I just
Hello.
wanted to ask you, what is the message to your team at 0-2? There's still plenty of time left in the Big Ten season. Do you focus on where you are right now, or what can come ahead in the games to come?
We try focusing on our habits and continue to do the same things we've done from day one. And I felt we lost the game against Minnesota off of simple breakdowns, not doing our job on the defensive end, and then not being fundamentally sound and showing discipline on offense, especially when it comes to shot selection. So it's not talking about a record or where you are in your league. It's talking about actually doing the things that you need to do to help us be successful. So that's what we'll continue to harp on. And if you do those things, now, your record's going to improve and you're going to get better. It'll take care of itself.
And then coming up with Nebraska, what do you focus on this week, and is weather issues causing any problems with getting guys into the gym?
Yeah. Well, it's all right. As long as we can get back to campus, we can get in the gym. So we're in Minneapolis right now. We're supposed to bus here in about a half an hour to get to the airport, and it looks like it's clear for us to get back in. As long as we can get to campus, we'll get them in the gym. And we have no class this week. So we'll get some things done this week.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you.
Coach, talk a little bit about your trio of freshmen, Bryson Scott, Basil Smotherman, and Kendall Stevens, and how they've adjusted to the college game.
Well, all 3 of them have a different answer, but I'll try my best to put it together. It's hard. It's hard for a young guy. I'm pleased with those guys, but yet, they play. All 3 play a lot for us, and so they're learning on the fly and learning about the little things in terms of defending and being physical without fouling. And we have to learn to take care of the basketball. I think first and foremost, we have to do a good job there, and we have to do a good job defensively of stopping people and carrying out our assignment. So that holds true for our whole team, not just those guys. But they've walked into a good opportunity. They got to continue to improve to get better, each day in practice and in each game. But Basil Smotherman has given us a lot of energy. So is Bryson Scott. Bryson Scott is learning the position. He's really been a lead guard his whole life where he's just attacked. He's got to learn to be able to make a better decision in terms of when they stop him, like on his drives. And then, Kendall Stevens, the guy that can really stretch the defense and is starting to make some strides and putting the ball on the floor, and got to get him from a defensive standpoint, to understand each guy and each guy's differences and being able to play each guy. But all these things I'm talking about are very, very normal for a young player.
All right, thanks for your time this morning, Coach. Safe travels back to West Lafayette. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. The next coach on the teleconference is Michigan State's Tom Izzo. The Spartans are 13-1 on the season and 2-0 in Big Ten play, ranked number 5 in the AP poll. Michigan State will host third-ranked Ohio State on Tuesday before welcoming Minnesota to the Breslin Center on Saturday. Coach Izzo, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Well, other than the snow, it's been a good New Year for us so far. I thought we played pretty well against Indiana. There were some things that we didn't do as well, and I think some things they didn't do as well. But when you get into conference play, I think there's so many good coaches in this league, and everybody takes away somebody else's strengths, and that's what starts to happen. So I think the league has been phenomenal. It's going to be an unbelievable year, and we got a big week this week with Ohio State coming in tomorrow, and that's going to be a big game. They're undefeated, and rightfully so. And Kraft has just proven to be one of the conference's great winners, and we're going to have to take care of the ball and play better maybe than we've been playing.
Thanks, Coach. We'll go ahead and open the call for questions from the media.
To ask Coach a question, please press *1. Your first question comes from the line of Brown Couch, Lansing State Journal.
Hey, Tom. I wanted to ask you about the Kraft-Appling matchup a little bit. And I know Aaron has gotten the best of Keith, especially in those games last season. Is there anything you say to Keith to make sure he doesn't make this a mano-a-mano thing and keep it as keep it more as a team and all about winning?
I just watched our game last year against them in the Big Ten tournament until the very end. Keith actually played very well against them, and I think sometimes Keith does do that. I think it gets to be, where those two get talked about, and that's not good for Keith. I think he's got to just play his game. They're two different kinds of players, and both very good defensively, but Keith can do some other things scoring the ball that I think Kraft can't do, and Kraft can do some things that Keith doesn't do as well. So you got to worry about yourself and how you play, and not get caught up in the circus that is sometimes around rivalry games or games that are big games with rivalry players. So I think you're right on the money, and we got to make sure Keith just takes care of his business, not worry about anybody else's.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
Your next question comes from the line of Brian Hamilton, SI.com.
Hey, Tom, sort of a little bit along those lines. I know you're not around them every day, but to you, why are Kraft and Scott so good at stealing the ball?
Well, they do a great job of stealing it, but I think some of them are close too. Kraft has got a reputation for doing it, and I think probably when you play against him every day, by osmosis you get better, and I think that has really helped Scott. He's those two guys. That's one of their strengths. That's what they do. I think Kraft has an incredible feel for the game and never comes out of his stance. That's why he does it. Maybe the athletic ability of Scott helps him. I don't know his as much. I know more about Kraft just because he's done it for 4 years against everybody he's played against.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome.
Your next question comes from the line of Joe Rex, Detroit Free Press.
Hey, Tom, when you look at Ohio State, obviously last year there was so much about, they need to find that other scorer to go with Thomas, and now seem to be much more widely distributed in scoring and minutes. Is it defense feeding offense, or just guys like, Williams, Ross, Scott sort of developing?
Well, I think definitely Ross has developed a lot, and Scott has developed some, and they're getting someone at the Love kid. But, I think their defense still is the strength of their team. Maybe not as good a shooting team, although they're starting to shoot it a little better. But their defense is definitely what's won for them, and that's what usually wins for people. They just take it to another level. Part of that is Kraft, but part of it is their length and athleticism. And now you get guys coming off the bench that were starting last year at times, and a kid like Thompson. So, they're a very solid, athletic, long, good defensive team. That's offense is getting better as the year goes on.
Real fast, if you look at this game, over the years, you and Illinois had a good thing, and Wisconsin's still ongoing, but more of a rivalry with these guys just because of the success between both of you the last several years?
Well, I just got done watching our game against them last year in the Big Ten tournament, and if I wasn't coaching, I'd say, God, that was a heck of a game. There's been some great games. Most of them have gone right down to the wire, and there have been some really good games. I think they're very well played. So I think it's been a good, clean, hard-fought rivalry. And I'd say it's when you've been able to do what we've done, and that's kind of maintain some semblance of consistency. Different teams become your rivals in certain ways. And as you say, when Illinois and us were going at it all the time, or Wisconsin and us still are, and and Indiana's bounced back, Michigan, and now Ohio State. I guess that speaks well for us that you kind of gain more rivalries if you keep the success, because rivalries are built on two good teams that are playing and that are playing for something. And us and Ohio State have played for a lot of Big Ten championships in the last 6-7 years, or at least been right in the hunt.
Your next question comes from the line of Bob Baptiste, Columbus Dispatch.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Bob.
I read where you would prefer to play your bigger lineup more. And number one, why is that? And number two, is there any risk reward for you to weigh with Payne at the 4 versus 5, Dawson at the 3 versus 4, or are you comfortable with them at either of those positions regardless?
I'm really comfortable at either position, to be honest with you, Bob, and more. It's more because of a rotation standpoint. I've always had more energy guys coming off the bench, and with only Trice left there, when I had Valentine and Trice, I was getting some energy, and then I was getting a good sub in our big. Now it's poor Trav, and then everybody else is a big who doesn't bring the same kind of demeanor to the game. So there's nothing to do as much with I've seen those guys play well both ways. In other words, I've seen Adrian play well as a 4 and as a 5, and I've seen Dawson playing well as a 3 and as a 4. There'll be no permanent of anything. I mean, we're still going to play him different ways. It's really a matter of back to the days, and I had Morris Peterson. He was maybe my best player his junior year, and yet he came off the bench. It's just about getting a rotation down, something we haven't had at all, Bob, this entire time because of the injuries and illnesses. And so I don't know when we're going to do it, if we're going to do it, but it's something that I'm talking about to get a rotation down more than I am worrying about how many minutes certain guys are going to play at the 4, 5, or 3.
Thanks.
Okay.
Your next question comes from the line of Larry Lagg, the Associated Press.
Morning, Tom. How are you?
I'm good, Larry.
Your team has played in a lot of big games over the years, including this year against Kentucky. How does a top 5 matchup, do you think, just become another game, or do you think the guys are extra pumped up for this?
Well, it better not become another game, otherwise, that's disappointing. I mean, and yet again, you don't want it to be where it's the biggest game of the year because, you do have to learn in this program that you're going to have a lot of big games, but there's always going to be a little more. And, I think an interesting fact is last year we played Indiana here, and this year we play Ohio State here. I think it's the only 2 top 5 games in this arena. In other words, where both teams are ranked. We had a couple with UConn. I think they were 7 and we were 4. There's been different games, but 2 top 5 teams doesn't happen very often here. So it is a special event, and just hope the weather holds up so it becomes one.
Thanks.
All right, there.
Your next question comes from the line of Steve Kornacki, FoxSportsDetroit.com.
Hey, Tom. With Aaron Kraft, talk about what you admire most about him.
Well, I admire that he's figured out what he can do. I think so many times now in this day and age we're worried about what we could be instead of what we are, and we don't embrace what we are. We're always trying to be something else. We're trying to be a year older. We're trying to get somewhere quicker. We're trying to be 5-minute or 4, 4-minute or 3, 3-minute or 2, 2-minute or 1. Everybody wants to be something different than they are, and I think what he's done is embraced what he is. He's a great defender who runs a team, and that's what he does. And he doesn't. He's improved his shooting each year, but he doesn't. He's not a kid that's going to come out and be draining threes and things like that. He's improved his ball handling every year, but he doesn't try to overhandle it. I think he plays with it himself, and I think he tries to be nobody but what he is, and that's a pretty good art this day and age.
With the 3 guards that they start, what kind of problems does that present for you? And you're probably pretty confident you can handle that, but just talk about that.
Well, I mean, I think what they do is they become very athletic, and they get you with a lot of ball screens. They get you on the break, but they turn their defense into offense. And when you got 3 defenders on the perimeter and you defend well, then you're going the other way, and good things are happening. So I think that's the biggest thing is their defense becomes aggressive, and they turn that into fast break basketball. Even though they don't break all the time, they opportunistic break off steals and things like that, and that makes them very effective.
Thank you.
All right, Coach, we're out of time this morning. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll look forward to speaking with you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next coach on the teleconference is Wisconsin's Bo Ryan. The Badgers are 15-0 overall, 2-0 in the Big Ten, and ranked number 4 in the AP poll. Wisconsin will host Illinois on Wednesday. Coach Ryan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
If you wouldn't mind providing us a quick opening statement, we'll go ahead and open up for questions.
No, that's okay. We're already well into the time. We're good.
All right, let's go open for questions for Coach Ryan.
To ask Coach a question, please press star 1.
Coach, I'll go ahead and start things off. Talk a little bit about the continued development of freshman Nigel Hayes, who's obviously getting a lot of playing time, particularly in Big Ten play, and has become a really valuable member of your rotation.
Yeah, when you're bright, you're perceptive, you're strong, he has a lot of things going for him, and he's using his talents and trying to maximize his strengths. And he's worked hard at some weaknesses, and you always have to enjoy coaching young people like that. He's really been a pleasant surprise for our staff, for his teammates, and his contributions have been well noted.
Thanks, Coach. Go ahead and open up for questions from the media.
To ask Coach a question, please press star 1. Your first question comes on line of Jesse Temple, Fox Sports, Wisconsin.
Well, you've talked about Bronson's passing ability. Do you think he's picking his spots pretty well, too, and trying to score this season?
Yeah, I think he's been trying to make sure that he puts himself in position, because he can be a very streaky shooter. His rotation is really, really good. The only tough shot he took last night was when the shot clock got down and he tried to shoot over a guy that was pretty long in white. So, yeah, I think he hasn't looked to take bad shots, that's for sure. We've been trying to get him to be a little more aggressive scoring, and his teammates have too. His teammates have done a great job of encouraging him to look for a shot as well.
And do you sense this year's team really gets along and likes each other and has a good chemistry because of that? I mean, do you notice that even in practice, that they really like each other?
Well, I know people started talking about that concept of everybody liking each other on the team and on them. I always thought back to the teams that I played on, and some of the things that you go through as a team. I know a lot of brothers and sisters in a family. People say the family gets along really well, and there are things that they do that shows that they truly have that belief that if I help you, you'll help me. And in the long run, we can all be better off for it. So, yes, it is that camaraderie. It is that sense of we know we have limitations. We know we might not be this, we might not be that, but we are more concerned with what we are and what we can do. And I think that is the answer to, do they get along? Do they enjoy playing with one another? Do they? Yeah. So I think it's because they realize their strength in numbers, and doing things together can produce better results.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
To ask Coach a question, please press star 1. Your next question comes on the line of Marcus Jackson, News Gazette.
Hey, Bill, I know a lot of people talk about how tough it is to come up and play in your building at the Kohl Center. Is there anything more to it than the fact that you guys have just had some pretty good basketball teams over the years?
Well, I think when you really look at it, the larger buildings, with ours being one of them, 17,000 plus, I think, if you look at teams that have really good, or the top home court winning percentages, a place like Duke, how small it is. Kansas is not, as large. Gonzaga. I think you have to say that there's got to be more than just the building. I think it's the energy of the fans, the support that they give, and players sense that, and I think that helps them to give maybe a little extra. But that's, I would like to think that it's the way the players have played together at home that's had the most to do with that type of record. But you also know that the outside forces of energy in the building and fan support and those type of things, you can't accomplish what our guys have done without that. So, and there's a lot of tough places in the Big Ten to play. Matter of fact, all of them. But I do appreciate what our fans give us, and I know the players do.
Thank you.
Yep.
Your next question comes from the line of Steve Kornacki, FoxSportsDetroit.com.
Hey, Coach. I know that you've seen plenty of Ohio State, Michigan State games in the tournament, and you guys have a lot of admiration for one another, and all three of your programs are in the top 5. How would you characterize a Michigan State, Ohio State game, and also is it one that you'll take time out to watch on Tuesday night?
Well, yeah, I try to catch as many as I can, and we are going to be practicing late on Tuesday, so I know I'll catch some of it. I think there's a lot of, sometimes when you separate the record and just look at the intensity of teams playing, there's so many matchups in the Big Ten that just where good, hard-nosed, tough play, to me, is so much fun to watch. Each possession is valuable. Each trip up and down the court, there's a battle going on. So Ohio State, Michigan State, that's obviously one that fits into that category, and that's what we love about our league. That's why players come to play in the Big Ten, because of that high level of competition.
Excellent.
Yep.
To ask Coach a question, please press star 1. Your next question comes from the line of Marcus Jackson, News Gazette.
Yeah, Coach, have you had a chance to dig into Illinois so far, and what have you seen by watching them on film if you have?
Well, I know you have heard this many times. I don't do scouting reports on the phone, but I think it's obvious. Number one, they're playing well together. They found another scorer. Rice has given them a lot. There's a lot of talent on that team, and Coach Groce has them playing, has them working together and doing some things where we know what we're in store for. Whether or not we can answer all their challenges will remain to be seen. But I think they are one of the better teams in the league, and I think at this stage of the game they're playing extremely well together. So that's the best I can give you right now. There's a lot more film I need to look at here before Wednesday night, but they're playing well together. They're doing a lot of good things on both ends.
Thanks.
Yep.
Your next question comes from the line of Shannon Ryan, Chicago Tribune.
Hi, and just to follow up off of that, does that surprise you given what a young team they have, that they are playing so well together, and what stands out to you about the way they're doing that given such a young roster?
Well, I know, is Rice young? He's played.
Not Rice, but the whole roster.
Bertrand and Egwu, and I think they've got a nice blend. I think they've got plenty of experience, more than some teams. So with that combination and what the younger players are given, that's kind of something that I know coaching staffs are always looking for, to get that blend. So I think the veterans have done a good job working with. I think our veterans have done a good job working with our young players. So I really haven't looked at Illinois as being young, totally, but they do have an injection of maybe what you'd call inexperience in the Big Ten. So, but I don't think it's a surprise because of the talent level.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Coach, we're out of time. We appreciate you taking the time this morning. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, thanks. See you.
Thank you. The next coach on the teleconference is Michigan's John Beilein. The Wolverines are 10-2 overall, 2-0 in the Big Ten, and are receiving votes in both the AP and coaches' polls. Michigan will travel to Nebraska on Thursday. Coach Beilein, good morning.
Good morning.
If you wouldn't mind giving us a quick opening statement, we'll go ahead and open it for questions.
Well, we're thrilled that we were able to start out in this conference with a 2-0 record. We know that the early season victories are important, although they don't define your season. But we're glad we could get out of the gate with 2-0. And now we just have to, we go on the road again, play a late game at Nebraska on Thursday, and we got to do everything we can to answer a challenge again. So love the way our team responded the other day to the success we had in Minnesota with a win. Then you get responding to success is sometimes more difficult than responding to adversity. So I love the way we came out yesterday and played against Northwestern.
Thanks, Coach. We'll go ahead and open it up for questions from the media.
To ask Coach a question, please press star 1. Your first question comes from the line of Brenda Quinn. I'm live.
Hey, John. You mentioned yesterday about LaValle kind of having to step in on the scout team. I'm just curious if there's been any other, kind of quirky things or anything else that you've had to do to counteract just your basic numbers at this point.
I think another thing that has happened is added Brad Amloff from his football walk-on was a good addition. He's a tough kid. He's athletic. He's like a decathlete. He plays all these different sports, and he's really added a dimension too of guarding Nick every day or guarding Glenn every day and being physical with them. That has really helped us because with Cole McConnell with a injured foot and now Mitch out, we're down to 13 players. So we got to have those 5 to be able to give us some competitive games in practice.
I mean, do you feel like you have a scout team that last year you had a kind of guys who were mostly upperclassmen handling all that? I mean, how do they adjust with the day-to-day being ready to replicate what another team can do?
Oh, Andrew Dockage and Sean Lonergan right now they're showing the progress that we saw from the Esso Akunes and Corey Person and Josh Bartelstein, guys that were not on scholarship yet were able to go in and get better over their 4 years. Like we have workouts for them on game days. We have weights for them on game days, just trying to get them better, the better they are. And then Mark Donnell right now in practice continues to. I think if it was any other year, he'd be in there playing. But with having the 3 guys there right now, still does not make sense for him to share minutes when he's a young 18 years old. So I do like the way that team is sort of coming together. But when Vale joins that team, they take another step up.